2 years of silence. 2 years without a single phone call. Not one birthday text. Not one "how are you?" Just silence. And it wasn't me who chose that silence first. It was them. My name is Claire. And for most of my life, I believed my parents loved me. I believed that no matter what happened, they would stand beside me. I was wrong. So wrong that when their lawyer finally reached out and I read the one document they needed me to sign, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I laughed. I laughed so hard the lawyer on the other end of the phone actually stopped and asked, "Ma'am, are you okay?" To understand why I laughed, you need to understand everything that came before. You need to understand what it feels like to be the daughter nobody chose. Stay with me because this story is not just about a family that broke apart. It's about what happens when the people who broke it come back, expecting you to still be the same broken little girl they left behind. They were wrong about that too. Growing up, I was the older daughter. My sister, Megan, was 2 years younger. And somewhere along the way, without anyone ever saying it out loud, my parents decided that Megan was the favorite. It wasn't one big moment. It was 1,000 small ones. When we argued as kids, I was always told to apologize first, even when I hadn't done anything wrong. When Megan broke something, it was an accident. When I did, it was carelessness. When Megan got A B on a test, my parents celebrated. When I got A B, they asked what happened to the A. I told myself it was normal. Every family has a golden child, right? I told myself that once I grew up, once I proved myself, things would change. I worked hard. I got into a good university on a partial scholarship. I studied late nights in the library while Megan went to parties. I graduated near the top of my class in accounting. It was the proudest day of my life. My parents didn't come. They said Megan had an important networking event that same weekend, and someone needed to be there for her. So they went to support Megan's event instead of watching me walk across that stage. I stood in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd for faces that weren't there, and I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was strong enough not to need it. But something inside me quietly cracked that day, and it never fully healed. A year after graduation, I met David. He was kind, steady, and worked as a mechanic running his own small auto shop. He wasn't flashy. He didn't wear expensive suits, but he showed up. Every single time he showed up. When I brought him home to meet my parents, my mother looked him up and down and later pulled me aside in the kitchen. "A mechanic, Claire? Really? After everything we paid for your education?" My father was blunter. He called David a downgrade, right to my face at our own engagement dinner, loud enough that David heard it from the next room. I wanted to defend him. I wanted to scream that David treated me better than anyone in my own family ever had. But I stayed quiet, the way I always did, hoping that silence would keep the peace. It didn't. Over the next year, every family argument somehow became about me. If Megan and I disagreed about anything, a shared bill, a family plan, even what restaurant to pick for Sunday dinner, my parents took her side. Every single time, without exception. When I finally asked my mother why, she said something I will never forget. "Megan needs us more. You've always been the strong one." Being called strong started to feel like a punishment. It meant I didn't deserve comfort. It meant my pain didn't count. Then came the final blow. At a family gathering, in front of aunts, uncles, and family friends, my mother told everyone that I had been acting mentally unstable lately and that they were worried about my choices, meaning David, meaning my career, meaning my entire life. She said it with a sad little smile, like she was doing me a favor by warning everyone about me. That night, I went home, sat on my bathroom floor, and cried until I had nothing left. Then I made a decision that would change everything. I stopped calling. I stopped answering. I blocked the guilt trips before they could even start. No contact isn't a dramatic slammed door. It's quiet. It's a phone that doesn't ring on your birthday, and you finally let yourself feel relieved instead of hurt. It's holidays spent with David's family instead, where I learned what it actually felt like to be asked how my day was and have someone mean it. The first few months were hard. I won't pretend they weren't. There were nights I almost called my mother just to hear her voice, just to see if she'd changed. But every time I thought about reaching out, I remembered that smile she wore while calling me unstable in front of people I'd known my whole life. Word got back to me through my cousin. My parents were telling people I had abandoned the family, that I was ungrateful after everything they'd done for me. Meanwhile, Megan was living at home rent-free at 26, and my parents had co-signed a car loan for her that same year. I built a life without them. David and I got married in a small ceremony with 15 guests. I got promoted to senior accountant at my firm. I found a version of peace I never knew existed. 2 years passed, and then one Tuesday afternoon, an envelope arrived at my office. Return address, a law firm downtown. Sender, my father's attorney. My hands actually shook when I opened it. The letter was formal, cold, exactly the kind of tone you'd expect from a stranger, not a father. It said my father needed my signature on a single document related to estate and financial planning, and requested I call the office to schedule a time. My first instinct was to throw it away. 2 years of silence, and now suddenly they needed something from me? Typical. But curiosity got the better of me. I called the number. The attorney, a polite man named Mr. Harding, explained that my father was restructuring his assets. He wanted to formally document how the family estate, the house, the savings, and old family property upstate would be divided. He needed both daughters' signatures on an acknowledgement form. I asked him to send me the actual document before I agreed to anything. He emailed it over that same afternoon. I remember sitting at my desk, my coffee going cold, as I scrolled through page after page of legal language. And then I got to the section that mattered. The distribution breakdown. Everything, the house, 70% of the savings, the upstate property, was going to Megan. I was listed too. My inheritance was one item, a small ceramic vase I'd given my mother for Christmas when I was 12 years old. Estimated value, $40. $40. After 30 years as their daughter, after every ounce of effort I'd poured into making them proud, that's what I was worth to them on paper. And that's when I started laughing. I want you to understand why I laughed, because it wasn't bitterness. Not entirely. It was relief. For years, I had wondered if I was overreacting. I'd wondered if maybe I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too much like the unstable daughter my mother described at that party. Some tiny part of me always held on to the idea that maybe, deep down, my parents did love me equally. Maybe I had imagined the favoritism. That document erased every doubt. In black and white, notarized and signed, my parents had finally written down exactly what I meant to them. A $40 vase. They didn't need my signature because they wanted to include me. They needed it because without both daughters' signatures acknowledging the will, my father's lawyer told me plainly, the whole document could be challenged and dragged into years of legal disputes after his passing. They needed me to make Megan's inheritance airtight. They needed my agreement to protect what they were giving away to someone else. I wasn't a daughter to them anymore. I was a legal formality. So when Mr. Harding asked gently, "Ma'am, are you okay?" I told him the truth. "I'm better than okay," I said. For the first time in years, I finally have proof I'm not crazy. I didn't sign right away. Instead, I asked Mr. Harding one question. What happens if I don't sign? He explained that without my acknowledgement, my father's estate plan could be contested later, potentially delaying everything for Megan for months, maybe longer, and costing the family significant legal fees. I thought about that for exactly 3 seconds. Then I told him I needed time to think it over. I hung up, and for the first time in 2 years, I called my mother directly. She picked up on the second ring, her voice hopeful, almost desperate. "Claire? Oh my God, honey, is that you?" I kept my voice calm. "I got the document from Dad's lawyer." There was a pause. Then she started talking fast, the way she always did when she was covering something up. She said it wasn't personal, that Megan needed more support financially, that I was always so independent and never needed help the way Megan does. I let her finish. Then I asked the only question that mattered. Did you ever, even once, consider what it would feel like for me to see that number next to my name? Silence. "That's what I thought," I said. "I'll think about the signature. Don't call me again until I reach out first." And I hung up. Here's the thing about revenge. Sometimes it's not about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about simply refusing to give them what they want until they finally understand the cost of what they did. I didn't sign the document for 6 months. Every few weeks, Mr. Harding would call, professionally checking in. Every few weeks, I calmly told him I was still considering it. I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. I genuinely needed time. But I also knew something my parents didn't fully understand. Without my signature, that estate plan sat in legal limbo. My father, worried about his health and his legacy, grew increasingly anxious. My mother started sending emails, actual written apologies, admitting things she'd never said out loud before. That she'd been unfair. That she'd let her own insecurities about Megan's struggles color how she treated me. That she was scared of losing me completely. I read every email. I didn't respond to most of them. But I kept them because for the first time, I had something I never had before, written, undeniable acknowledgement of the truth. Eventually, my father requested a meeting in person. Just the two of us. No lawyers, no Megan, no ambush. I agreed to meet him at a quiet coffee shop, on my terms, on my schedule. My father looked older than I remembered. Tired. He'd lost weight. He didn't waste time on small talk. He said, "I know I failed you as a father. I've had 2 years to think about it, and every excuse I made for myself falls apart when I actually look at it honestly." I didn't say anything. I let him keep talking. He admitted that after Megan's difficult years, struggles with jobs, relationships, financial mistakes, he and my mother had unconsciously decided I didn't need them because I always figured things out on my own. He said watching me succeed made it easier to justify giving Megan more, because in his mind, I was already fine. But being fine, I finally said, doesn't mean I didn't need my parents to show up. It just means I stopped expecting you to. He didn't argue. He just nodded, his eyes wet. Then he asked about the document, about the signature. I told him the truth. I told him that money had never been the issue. That a fair estate reflecting my sister's real needs wouldn't have bothered me at all if it had ever felt like a decision made with love instead of indifference. What broke me wasn't the $40 vase. It was 30 years of being treated like an afterthought and then being expected to sign off on it quietly one last time without complaint. I told him I would sign the document, but only under one condition. He needed to write, in his own handwriting, a letter acknowledging everything. The favoritism, missing my graduation, calling David a downgrade, letting my mother call me unstable in front of family. Not for the lawyers. For me. So I would have something real, something permanent, proving that what happened to me actually happened. He agreed without hesitation. 3 weeks later, I signed the document at Mr. Harding's office. My father's handwritten letter sat in my bag, folded carefully, the truth finally written down after 30 years of silence. I didn't ask for more money. I didn't ask for an equal inheritance. That was never the point. What I wanted was acknowledgement, and I finally got it. My relationship with my parents today is not what it once was, and honestly, it never will be. We talk occasionally. Careful, respectful conversations. My mother has started therapy, something she once mocked me for suggesting years ago. My father calls every few weeks, and for the first time, he actually asks how David and I are doing and means it. Megan and I have slowly started rebuilding too. It turns out she never even knew how unbalanced things were. She'd been so buried in her own struggles that she hadn't noticed the weight our parents quietly placed on my shoulders instead of hers. When she found out about the estate breakdown, she was the one who insisted our parents redraw it fairly. Not because I asked. Because once she saw the truth, she couldn't ignore it either. Boundaries, I learned, aren't about revenge. They're about refusing to keep accepting less than you deserve, simply because it's familiar. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's this. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally will still fail you. And when that happens, walking away isn't cruelty. It's survival. I didn't go no contact to punish my parents. I did it to protect myself from a pattern that was slowly convincing me I wasn't worth choosing. And when that lawyer's letter arrived, when I saw my entire worth reduced to a $40 vase, I laughed because I finally had proof of something I doubted for years. My pain had always been real. I was never the problem. If you're standing where I once stood, wondering if you're overreacting, wondering if the distance you've created is too harsh, ask yourself this. Would you accept this treatment from a stranger? If the answer is no, then you don't have to accept it from family either. Sometimes love isn't measured in blood. It's measured in who actually shows up. And once you finally see that clearly, you can never unsee it again.